Hi, everybody. Welcome to our question and answer event. It's going to be eventful. And I'm here with Mary.
Hi, friends. Great
Mary,
to be with you.
Mary Pennock, who's going to be taking your questions and giving them to me. Also, she's going to be testing me in terms of my knowledge and speed and dexterity at a certain points. This event is an opportunity for both students in KabU to ask questions, and also let's move over a little bit here so we're a bit centered. There we go. But also people who are just generally interested in Kabbalah, want to know what it is, why anybody would be doing this, and maybe you've wanted to know for a long time. Maybe you're hoping to get some real information here, and that's what we're going to try our best to give you. Not just information, but a sensation of what it is, what it's for, why people are doing it, why they're studying it. Along with the people who are studying and who are simply watching, we also have a group of people who are subscribers, subs to the Wednesday Wisdom Show, and they've been getting bits and pieces of things, not so much directly Kabbalah, but things about Kabbalah, how seeing and experiencing life through involvement in Kabbalah, what insights come from that, how we can begin to understand certain things in the human experience and our everyday experience and in the situation that exists in the world for us and so on. So this is also a chance for those people to see a group of people like you, the students who are studying, to get a sense of what it's like to study, and they'll get to hear your questions, which are coming out of the study. So we're going to be taking questions from everybody. The priority, of course, will be for the students of KabU, but we're looking to answer any questions that we can by anybody. So if you're on Facebook, there's a chat there. You can enter a question there. If you're on YouTube, you can enter a question there as well. And the students of KabU and Mary and I will be communicating through Zoom, and you'll be sort of peeking in on that. Kabbalah is about changing our perception and connecting to the purpose, the essence, the meaning of life. That is really, we're talking here about purpose. How does a person connect to what life is really about, and what is life about? How does a person even find this out? And we have a perfect example here in the experience that we're sharing right now. You can see me in this shot, but actually this is just a pinpoint, and what it really is something very different than a guy answering questions inside of a rectangle. What it really is, you have to, in order to know what it is, we have to sort of pull back and be able to take in more and more of the picture, because all of this has been prepared, and it's been prepared over a very long period of time. What you don't see in this frame is you don't see all of the people who have been supporting all of the students. There's a whole network of friends who give their time to supporting, teaching, answering questions to students within KabU, and preparing this event in particular. And they're also on Zoom, and they're in the background watching the feeds coming from the different platforms that this is being broadcast on. There is a connection between those people, and there is a force of intention that they're carrying forward, and they're part of an even larger picture, because there is a huge group of people worldwide who also study and also try to help other people understand this, and there are thousands of people in this network. And the thing that is being shared through this rectangle to the technical staff here, to the technical staff that is unseen, to the people teaching in KabU, to the relationships that support all of this, ultimately all the way up to the authors of the Kabbalistic books thousands of years ago. The thing that connects all of them is a quality that put the entire system in motion. Now, do you see that through the rectangle of your screen? No, maybe you're beginning to think about it as I start describing this. If a person wants to be able to feel this intention that animated the ancient Kabbalists, this feeling that is being shared through the entire system of actually millions and millions of people over time, and into this large, expansive group, and right down into this point of contact, the thing that is being shared is an intention of love and communication that we call the Creator. Everybody in this system that is bringing this information to you is all part and parcel of this intention to share, which is called light. And the end point of the light at the moment has got to do with a person's ability to perceive the scope of this holistic, interconnected system, all animated by a single intent to do good and to bring interest, adventure, fulfillment into your life. The scope right now of what one is able to perceive of that is limited by the amount of connection that exists between us and other people. And the way in which to transform ourselves, to be able to change perception of reality, to be able to encompass where we really live, what the real forces and dynamic and meaning and purpose of where we live, has got to do, the only way that we can expand that is by having connections to the broader and broader scope of where that light exists. And it doesn't just exist within me talking to you through this rectangle, nor in you receiving what seems to be a guy, a talking head, communicating this stuff to you. The reality is that you also are connected to this network of connection of the heart. And in order to break the boundaries of this rectangle, it requires knowing how to be able to connect in such a way that our perception of reality changes. Now, the Kabbalists have laid out an entire system. It existed in the ancient books. It exists in the modern reiteration, the modern texts that explain this. A whole system of worlds, of how the light descended from this initial point of intention all the way down to you on the other side of that rectangle. And it's made up of, it's technical. It's clear schematically to people who study it. It has been experienced by many people, and we think of this as like a ladder that goes from here, from a point of concealment all the way up to the beginning and prior to creation. Now, and we do study those things, and people tend to think of those things as mystical and arcane and all that, but what do they represent? What is it really talking about? It's talking about expanding our connection and identification with other people so that our perception of reality expands. And it's not about the numbers. It's not necessarily about the physical, only about the physical connection. It's about our identification with the lives and well-being and actions of people. It's not something we learn. We have there in our normal lives. We have there's something in us that prevents us from understanding, hearing, and taking up that type of an education. And it's all part of a meaningful concealment. And that concealment is there also to give us pleasure, because the purpose of our being here is to unravel this concealment through the most, what would seem counterintuitive means that we could possibly imagine. And that's what Kabbalah it teaches people. So I've got a clip that sort of explains that or talks about it again in another form. We'll watch the clip and then we'll come back to your questions. There's a science that deals only with the most essential purpose, covering the greatest possible scope, and specifically how we come to know and live in it. It gives us a practical, very human way of studying the highest natural forces, their place in us and our place in them. It's the essential science of meaning and everything that results from it. And in it, rather than beginning by examining physical matter, it starts with a view of life in this world as seen from the perspective of those forces that build and evolve it, and then describes how to reveal our conscious sensation of its purpose in us. So we're going to use its insights to peek into that gap. The science is called Kabbalah, which is a Hebrew word that means reception, how to receive and perceive. Its findings make it clear that what you think of as meaning and inexplicably long for is in fact the desire to relate to the highest, most comprehensive dimension of life. That your longing and doubt are required to make you capable of grasping the purpose and meaning, because they're the container in which you'll eventually receive it. Not only that, it describes exactly what the purpose of life is from the point of view of that dimension, and how this larger goal becomes activated only if and when you consciously engage with it, and not with something else that you imagine. And because its purpose is constantly aimed at your development, it's as if it's waiting for you to reveal it. And somewhere, even if ever so faintly, you feel that. There is a single cause, an impetus underlying, unfolding everything that ever happens. It's a natural mechanism, a law, but the only form in which the human heart is able to perceive and relate with it is as an intention called the thought of creation, and that is to create a creature and to bring it to complete fulfillment. That is both a description of the highest force and dimension of nature and the ultimate purpose of all life. What does that thought have to do with the meaning of your life? You could take the creature part of that equation personally, and it would only be partly true, because the creature in the thought of creation is our entire reality, the cosmos. Every object in it, all its cascading, lesser, non-physical forces and dimensions, everything and anything outside of that intention is the creature. And nothing that has ever happened, is happening, or ever will happen can happen for any other reason or to serve any other purpose. So no matter how events may feel to us, we're always held, nurtured, and evolved by the action of an unwavering force of giving. A constant, unperceived positive influence that's the very essence of meaning. So in the first place, you're already in all of this, and all of this is already in you. The thing that's concealing the profound interrelation, that's preventing us from feeling our true identity, is the exact quality that makes us the creature. Okay, so let's go to your first questions.
Okay, I think it's going to be a very lively and interesting session. Questions started coming in even before we started the broadcast. So first, can we hear a live question from Roshli? Roshli, if you will, please.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead, Roshli.
I'm very excited about this, but my question is, looks like I kind of missed the explanation between roots and branches. So can you just briefly explain or remind me, because I tried to find it in a script and I didn't find it, and I'm really interested in this part of the lesson.
There's a lot of ways to talk about this. Basically, the background for this is that when a person begins to learn, we need to understand that we're actually not the authority or the beginning point or the source of anything that happens, and that everything that we experience really comes from the higher intentional level. It comes from a point above the unconscious human experience, in which we are completely motivated by our will to receive. If an impulse comes from above, we interpret it always according to our own best interests. So we will respond to those things according to a very limited sort of perception. The important point of all that, because as students you're going to learn to a method of overcoming this, of being able to move from this sort of encapsulated level in which we don't actually do anything, but we are the result of intentions that happen above this level of existence. But everything that we see in our perception of reality is also caught up in that very same system. So if something appears to us, it actually appears according to the way that we react to something that doesn't actually have a form. It's not material, but it is a thought, an intention, an impulse that comes from a higher level than us and takes a form here. And that upper level, until we really are able to use free will, which we don't have at the beginning of our work and our process, nor at the beginning of our lives. We work very much like in a robotic way. Not that we don't enjoy it or that we're not engaged, but simply that we're not the author of any of the things that we do. So any of the things that we see, how we construct and project our reality, all come from impulses of the level of true creativity and free will, which is where the upper force is. The job of the student is to go from the branch, which is the outcome of impulses that we were not responsible for, even though we feel them as though they're mine, they're my thoughts or whatever, or my feelings or my desires. What happens as a student, and in the effort and in the work and in the study, we broaden our perception to the point where we gain a greater and greater grasp on the source of intent in us. We reach a place of free will. In science, in other words, we get above the outcome level or the branch level, and we move to the root level. In science, we see this as obviously that all the things that we see are the result of all kinds of forces that we don't see. And we know that the things of this world are really the products of more intensive, more powerful, and more hidden forces. So there's a saying that there isn't a blade of grass that doesn't have an angel that stands over it and tells it to grow. In other words, all of life, in the form that it comes and in the way that it designs our experience, is coming from the higher level where creativity exists, and here we are strictly the outcome of things. There are other kinds of explanations to root and branch, and it has to do with language, but I think you'll see that the further you go in your study.
Thank you for that question. We have 3 other live questions. Friends, if you want to ask questions, it helps us to feel you better and help us all to connect. And often others will hear their question within your question. So please don't be shy. Ask a live question. The next one comes from JP.
First of all, I just want to thank you, Tony, and all the others for such a great course. It's so filled with learning. Generally, my question was this: it has to do with the masach, or the screen. How does one practice it? How does one practice the intention? And in particular, is it the service of the creatures, the giving to the creatures, or is it more the relationship with the Creator behind the creatures? I guess that sums it up.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because both of those things are true. But I want to go back to what you said. How do you practice it? Um, the ability to sense this kind of an inner desire to give and to receive only in order to express the intention of the Creator is not something we can practice. You nailed it. It is something that comes to us in response to effort that we put in relation to feeling and seeing and caring for others constantly. Worrying about their reaching spiritual attainment, taking our attention off ourselves and understanding that what we feel as ourself, if you want to know how the forces are arrayed within human experience, what we feel as ourself is the force of ego. That's the force of reception. When we look at others, we are actually looking at the force of bestowal. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build the kind of connection that has us identify that force which is now completely outside of us. The only way that we can bring that inside of us and to begin to experience an ability to have a masach, a screen, that is, that we will always give in these situations, is to aim at that kind of connection with others, specifically with the people in your group. And you will eventually be working in a group, and KABU will supply that opportunity to you. But it's aimed through others at the Creator. That's at the Creator's quality. Because that quality doesn't exist in the one who is aspiring yet. But it exists in us as a great goal through which we relate to the friends. That means if we're always aimed at the Creator at the other side of this, and it's not actually the other side because the friends are, in fact, kind of the Creator for us. Everything that we need to do and experience and attain can only be attained through that connection with others. It's like what I was saying at the beginning of this. Perception of reality only opens through connections with others, but it has to be aimed at the Creator, otherwise it's aimed at ourselves. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Peter, for offering to ask a live question. You're up next. Thank you, Peter.
My name is Peter from Austria. I have a big topic, and I will put it in a small question. It is about the Brit Milah, the circumcision. Does Kabbalah understand it as revelation?
Thank you. Brit Milah is, it really refers, there are other circumcisions, and there are other what would you say? These things describe a restriction. They're really describing screens. Of course, it's recognized. You could call it a revelation. Like on one side of the screen, it's a revelation. On the other side of the screen, it is kind of an emptiness. Emptiness of light. In other words, the only thing that will be in the vessel at that point will be our effort to give without reception. In other words, that's an emulation of the Creator. So this covenant, this Brit, is one in which there is a first and a second kind of restriction, and that's what it's describing, a process in our inner work and in our work with each other that restricts receiving for the self. I'll leave it at that because there isn't enough supporting material to explain all of that. But it's another way of talking about the first and second restriction that you will learn about. I'm not exactly sure where you are, Peter, in your studies, but you'll learn about that in the technical work as well.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Kobe and Lana are here viewing together, and they have the next live question.
So my question would be regarding a group. I'm in Sacramento, California, and I'd like to know how I can build my physical group in here. And also the other question is about distribution. How can I distribute Kabbalah in my town? Thank you.
Thanks. It's not advisable for you to think about building a physical group right now. Building a physical group and getting that working is extremely complex. It's difficult, and we need training for that. And you're going to receive that training in further semesters of study in KabU. The first thing to do is to take advantage of the groups and the tens that you will be have an opportunity to take part in, and learn there what the real goals are, what the dynamic is like, how you work with the ups and downs and the difficulties. See, this is the thing in general. The world would love to know how to do this, is struggling constantly to find some way to actually live with each other and accept each other, even though we're in complete disagreement with each other. That's the whole trick. The world in general is guided by reason and by the natural nature of how the mind sets up our reason. So when we try to set up communities, never mind groups, when we try to set up countries and cities and villages, and it doesn't really work. And it's because we don't have the skills at the higher level of working not within the reason that is dictated by our given nature. So when you start working with other people in a 10, you get to see all the forces that are at play. You get good at that game. You understand what you need to aim at, what you should and shouldn't use out of your own personal resources, what's relevant or not, what is within reason and what's above reason. What's great about what you're asking is you want to get going. You know, okay, if that's what it's about, I'm willing to do it, and that is beautiful. But we made a lot of mistakes as students at the beginning, like 15 years ago, trying to do all these things on our own. We didn't have a complete and adequate system, and we do now. So take advantage of all that stuff, and when you get to the point, of doing that, either building one or joining one, because I don't know what city you're actually in. There's a group in California and around LA, and there's other ones you may want to be connected to. But at the point when you do it, you're going to end up doing it successfully. Dissemination. I actually don't know. There are materials that exist that you see on Facebook. Anything that's there that comes from our sources is perfectly fine to redistribute. Books, of course, are really good for people. It's much better than talking to them, because they'll think, they'll run away from you if you try talking to them about this stuff. But as of yet, I don't think there are dissemination projects specifically inside of KabU. So as an individual, please just use the materials that you already see going around and put them in groups and places that you think might have some kind of openness to it.
Thank you, Tony. I'd also like to add just a little bit, because I live in the middle of nowhere, 4 years from where we're broadcasting, actually, and that was my heart's desire, is to have an entire community surrounding me that are studying Kabbalah. And what I found, as Tony was saying, after years of studying in a group and with other people, that when the desire awakens organically, and the people in my community, and there have been a couple, then they share that same desire that I do to want that same kind of community. So it does take time, but keep that desire alive, because it will happen eventually. It's very exciting. Okay, next question. We have several live questions. Thank you. This is making a very dynamic session. Next live question is from Benjamin. Are you still with us, Ben?
I'm just looking for a clarification on the creator and the creature. Just say if we have like a coffee cup and it has a lid on it. So the coffee cup is the, I'm just trying to figure out the will to bestow and the vessel and the intention, and looking for a clarification on all three. So which one is the creature? Is it only the intention, or is the creator the will to receive, the vessel, and the will to bestow? I'm just looking for clarification on those three things, if you can just shed some light on that.
Try thinking about how to use the example that you gave, because you obviously feel close to it in some way. First of all, the creator is everything. The creator is all of those. And the job of but the creature is only the cup, the empty cup. The force of bestowal is what can either go into that cup and satisfy a limited need determined by the limits of the size of the cup, its capacity, and then it becomes a will to receive. The empty cup is always a will to receive. The question is, what does it want? Either it will accept the light directly, which means in order to fill a personal pleasure. The light comes from the Creator because the Creator does nothing but constantly do good and fill and fulfill everything. It doesn't change. The Creator actually is willing to give us complete revelation and access to the will to bestow, but can only do it according to the nature of our vessel. So we're the limiting factor on the revelation of the Creator. When our desire stops being about filling up the egoistic vessel, and we put a screen over the top of it, meaning a decision that says, well, I actually can't give, but I really want to be able to give. So what I'll do my best to receive everything only in order to somehow fulfill the desire of the Creator. I don't know that I can truly understand it, but I'm making this decision right now. This light's not going into my egoistic vessel. I only want contact with the light of the Creator in order for it to make me like that. So those are the three things. The light fills everything and is everything. The creature is a desire, an independent desire that can make a choice as to whether or not it's going to fill its egoistic nature or will use its will to receive in order to rise and perceive and eventually be able to give like the Creator. I hope that's a bit clearer.
Okay, thank you. Next live question is from Donald. Please, Donald.
My question is, I have a corporal desire, and it's a desire that's been burning within me for mountains of years. My question is this corporal desire really a cover-up of what I should be chasing spiritually? Is it really a spiritual desire that I'm longing for? Thanks. And thank you guys for everything.
The question. Well, I don't know what your desire is, but that's what we are. So what we're not gonna do is we're not going to destroy, nor can we actually, the will to receive. And a lot. The only distinction that we try to eventually learn is the difference between necessity and excess, because the excess, I don't mean in, you know, like what you own, but if a desire fuels you, helps you, keeps you engaged, you know, for some people, you can't really measure other people's necessities. It's difficult. Your desire may be absolutely good, useful, and necessary for you to do the, you know, to do the spiritual work. You know, for somebody, like I have to be involved one way or the other in art, in music. I have to. It's like part and parcel of my nature, and some portion of my time. I mean, I do it for work, but it also is a desire for me. But it's connected to necessity for me. And I've had that all my life. You know, creativity has always been an extremely important thing. But then when you think about it, it eventually turns into something else, because this desire fuels, you know, it expands, and you begin to understand creativity as something else entirely, or that wealth is something else entirely, or whatever these things are. We get them in their sort of in their inverted nature, but everything that we feel is really coming from above. The question is, why do we do these things? Not what we're doing. We don't try to control our desires, and we can't control them. What we can do is we can dedicate them to the work itself. That is, function over them. Don't worry about them. We're changing intentions, not the desires. This is one of the main differences between sort of ethics and morality, and how religion tries to grasp this and understand it and help people. But it doesn't help, because you can't change that. You're not the author of your desires. We may think that I came up with this desire and now I want it and now I'm going to do something about it. No, you didn't. It's how the Creator made you. It's how the craftsman made you. Our job is to take all of that raw material and use it with a correct intention for the well-being of our friends, and aimed at reaching the Creator. So don't worry about it unless it's like bank robbery or something. And even then, I'm sure you could do something creative with it.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Cindy, thank you. We'd love to hear from you next. Cindy, would you still like to ask your question?
Well,
okay, we can come back to you. Let's go to Steve.
You could read her question if she's, I don't know.
It's not posted, it's live, so we need to wait for her to join in. Okay, got it. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
I was raised in a non-denominational, charismatic, Pentecostal type church growing up. Among evangelicals, it is a big no-no to dabble in spirituality outside of the church parameters. I no longer subscribe to those beliefs. However, I do struggle with feeling confident about staying away from negative things. Can you speak specifically to how Kabbalah is historically linked to people using it for negativity, and more specifically, how to stay away from that? Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. You look a lot like Mary. First of all, let's talk about the origin of Kabbalah, because you're talking really about two different things, right? You're here, so right now you're connected to something that's in a lineage from authentic Kabbalah. Kabbalah is the source of the Bible. The Bible was written by Kabbalists, and all of the texts that underpin both Judaism and Christianity are all Kabbalistic texts. And those admonitions about, suffer not a witch to live, and sorcery and all these things, first of all, they exist in in the Bible and in Kabbalistic texts. What you're talking about is people's, those warnings are there. They don't mean what you think they mean, but the things that people say about Kabbalah are completely inaccurate. It's kind of like somebody not understanding what they are and what they're dedicated to because they don't understand the source of it. There's a stream that calls itself Kabbalah. There's a whole bunch of stuff, that has nothing to do with Kabbalah. Kabbalah is not about anything dark, anything negative. People who don't know anything about it, never had a teacher in the original lineage of it, aren't dedicated to the Creator, and all of those things. They turned it into stuff that came from medieval magic and all that stuff. It has nothing to do with Kabbalah at all. And this is what your friends, and your community, your past community in the Pentecostal church is talking about. But that's not what's in Kabbalah. That isn't Kabbalah, and that's not what's in it. And they have no relationship one to the other. Not at all. Kabbalah is about love your friend as yourself and nothing else. All of the laws that exist in religion and even the ethics of the world, the positive things of the world, are echoes of the true good that exists in that biblical lineage. The biblical lineage comes from Kabbalists. Abraham was a Kabbalist. And all of the texts and so on are all ways of interpreting and explaining these principles of connection, of working for others within and above reason in order to evolve a society to a successful civilization in which that connection lives. And that successful civilization that involves all of humanity is called Messiah. So as much as we don't understand, this is a relationship. This is a force, a relationship between people, not a person. So that's how much we don't understand, right? So in the first place, both Christianity and Judaism think somehow of this force, this pulling force, Mashiach. This comes from the word limshoch, which means to pull. It's also the name for Moses. That is misunderstood as some kind of a person. It's not a person. It's a person only when all of the creature, all billions of the broken, shattered parts of the original creatures understand itself as being a single creature in a relationship with the Creator. That's what that is. So don't be afraid of that. I understand that you are. I grew up in a religious community, and I had similar fears, and most people who come out of religion have those sorts of fears. But dear, it is truly based on a misunderstanding, a lack of knowledge.
As you and I were saying before the broadcast, Kabbalah is a story of connection.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing dark or negative
That's
about
right.
that. Thank you very much for that question. The next one comes from Steve, also a live question.
Go ahead, Steve. Did you want to ask?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Hi, you can hear me. Thanks. I was wondering how we can, if we can relate the idea of reception to the idea of consciousness or perception. So the Creator creates things for us to be conscious of, so that creates us as consciousness, and ultimately we're conscious of the Creator. Is this how things work?
I'm not sure that I grasp the question. Can you say it in explain a little bit more about the Creator gives us things and that becomes consciousness. Can you say that in another way or again?
Well, I often regard myself as conscious being, consciousness. So, and therefore I am conscious of everything that is put in front of me to be conscious of by the Creator. So the will to receive is the will to perceive the Creator through, I don't know, like consciousness and the things we're conscious of is a relationship that relates to reception, perceiving.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, I get what you're asking now. There's nothing to perceive at all except the Creator, because there is nothing but this force. It's called the Kabbalistic principle is Einod Milvado. It means there's none else besides Him. Even what we consider to be us, that's also none else besides Him. Now, everything, the whole point of creation was that the Creator, so to speak, wishes to give or fulfill your perception. It's more than perception, of course, it's life itself. But we're always in a receptive mode. And what the Creator is giving to us is a pure, let's call it a spiritual impulse of something, like a spiritual object. And the nature, the level of our development in terms of what we desire at any given moment is what structures what we perceive. It also structures what we see. It creates the world that we experience. So, according to the state of your vessel, the vessel can only receive, right? So everything that it has, its very being, its taste, its perception, its scope of perception, everything is a gift. And the only thing that the Creator gives is a perception, and can give is the greatness of the Creator. And it's actually what thrills us the most. It's why you're here. You've chosen to receive a contact with that giving force. That's what you consider to be the most valuable thing. So your perception, even right at this moment, in terms of what, this next word, this next sentence or idea that is going to pass through here, has got to do with the expectation and the desire to fulfill that contact with the Creator. So it's perception, it's life itself, but its shape is determined by the underlying desire that exists between us right now.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Again, thank you everyone for sending your questions and raising your hands to ask live questions. We need about a 3 to 4 hour segment, I think, one of these days. The next question comes live from Laurentillo. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Laurentillo. Okay, for now, let's go to questions from Neva. Also live question. You may ask now if you wish. Neva, and I hope I pronounced that right, N-I-V-A. Are you with us? Okay, third time's a charm. Let's go to Jenny M. Jenny, we'd love to hear your question. Okay, we'll come back. If you just signal again that you'd like to ask the question, then we can come back to you.
Alexi, can we go to the gallery view so I can, we can get a sense of like all the people there?
Wow.
Okay.
Beautiful. Okay, how about Stephanie? Are you with us, Stephanie? Okay, let's.
So do we have written questions?
We do. We have one more live. William. William's tuned in via iPhone, but would like to ask a live question. Okay, sorry friends, there's seems to be some technical difficulty. You can hear us, but we're not hearing you asking your questions. So we'll go back to Lauren Teo. Let's try Lauren Teo again and see if we can hear you ask live.
Yes, can you hear me now? Can you hear me, please? Hello?
I think we hear you, Laurentio, but Mary doesn't. So let's see if we can fix it. For now?
Yes, I also wrote the question on the chat. She can read it from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ahead, we hear you.
We hear you.
We hear you.
We do hear you, so you can go ahead.
Oh, you hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
My question is, in fact, there are two little questions. How do a right non-verbal prayer should look like, and what one can do without a teacher or a practice group to feel the wisdom of Kabbalah? Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't quite catch the thing about the prayer. What is a correct non-egoistic? Was that what he said?
Prayer without having a nonverbal prayer.
A correct nonverbal prayer?
Right, and can you continue to study without a teacher?
Yeah, that I heard.
Without having a teacher?
Okay, well, the definition of prayer anyway is it is nonverbal. It has to do with what's actually, it's a measurement, basically. A prayer is self-judgment. That is an evaluation of what is it that I truly want right now. Not what do I say I want, not what I'm fooling myself that I want. Maybe I don't even know what I want, and that's why I need to judge whether or not the impulse that I have is aimed at the goal. I'm checking myself against the ultimate. A person checks their own desire against what the Kabbalists and the Kabbalistic books tell us is the quality of the upper force, this force of bestowal, this force that doesn't think about the self, that is doing what it does for the fulfillment of the whole. It's external to, in a sense, it's outside of us, and it's for the benefit of what's around us. So we check and we see to the best of our ability. And then there is just the basic underlying prayer that whether you know it or not, that's the thing that we're actually praying. That's what's giving us the world that we see at the moment. That's what makes us feel confident or hopeless or any of those variations that we go through. So there's no formula except to do your best to check what your intention actually is. It takes a long time to even be able to notice that because our nature is built in a way to try to hide that from us. That's why it's very important to be working with other people. You can't do anything in Kabbalah First of all, nothing without oral instruction. Because you can't understand the books. Your ego is going to read the books. Your ego is going to say, this means this, and it'll all be in relation to the mind that comes up to satisfy personal unchecked desire. That's what it'll be. So you can't learn Kabbalah that way. And it's also very important that you do it with other people, because otherwise, against what are we going to check the nature of the desire? Against a moving target? Against the values that are out there in the world that are really the reinforcement of the ego to the point of destruction? No, you can't do it there, and you can't do it in relationships there. You can't even really do it within the family, because what has to happen, you can give to the family, you can do good in the family, but you can't learn to strengthen and to attract the light and strengthen that desire to continue working in spirituality without other people who are aimed at exactly the same target. Because you're not you. You are a piece of the whole. And there's nothing spiritual in the individual. The spirituality exists between all of the shattered and separated points, not in them, you see. So what's important is why people are connecting and what's in that connection. That's where the spirituality is. That's where your soul is. Your soul is outside of you. Your soul is the other people. That's the will to bestow. We have cast that outside of ourselves as though it weren't part of us, and it isn't actually, because of the way that we operate right now. We only grow a soul in the connections between other people, because that's where that force of pure bestowal can eventually be given by the Creator. And it's in the efforts between people. Those efforts are the efforts that attract the light and that eventually supply a screen to us in which, you know, there's a saying that says, I have labored and found. It's not that I labored and bought it and I got it and I did it and it's mine. It's that you do this labor, and as a result of the correct effort between people, something is added out of that relationship, and that is the spirituality. That's the light that comes from above. That's the light that corrects. So so you can't learn without a teacher, and you cannot progress without friends in the work.
Okay, this is exciting. I have a different kind of labor for you right now. We have a record number of questions that are lined up for the Blitz, which means that Tony has 3 minutes to answer as many questions as he can get to. So when the timer starts, we'll hit it. Okay, first one comes from a Limon Drop. Who is the Creator? Is it not me, as all is one? Bestowing to our Creator is bestowing to myself.
You are not the Creator. The Creator is the quality of bestowal, and we have to achieve that.
Cool.
That was easy.
Maya Girl 99. What are the laws of nature as you understand them?
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Wow, 2 for 2.
That was easy.
Nas, what religion fits Kabbalah in its ideology?
None.
The Rapture. Does a magnet have desire intention to pull upon a metal object, or does it just function according to its nature?
It functions according to its nature, and its nature is desire.
Easy. Dwayne, where do the spheroids exist?
They exist between people in a thing called a 10.
Manuel Combra, is it true that Kabbalah seeks communism in the corporeal world?
No, it is not.
Is there such a thing as synchronicity in Kabbalah? What exactly is it, and why does it happen?
Synchronicity is the fact that everything is connected to everything else and is a whole thing that we see in pieces. It's not synchronized, it just is whole.
Thank you. Kevin Long, what can we expect, if anything, by learning detailed phases of light and tree of life?
Effort. It's the effort you make to try to understand spiritual forms that attracts the light.
From Justin, how do we give for Lishma?
You work with other people and you try to do that. That's all. You just do the effort, and the force comes from the friends.
From B. Manifi, author, how can our minds not be influenced by the negative angels?
There are no negative angels.
Scott Hankins, hey Scott, how do I create the sensor to feel God is working on me in a good way?
By not judging by being thankful for everything that you receive as a means by which you can get closer to understanding and expressing the form and the quality of the Creator.
And thank you for that question. Mehdi Yacobi is thinking about having luxury in life an act of ego.
No, it is not, and I'm thinking about it right now.
That was easy.
Dal Green, this is a fundamental point in Kabbalah. No, you cannot change the desire, the nature. Instead, devote it, dedicate it to the higher.
That's correct.
Beautiful and clip. Impressive to know that the creature is our time and reality. What is the role of a human in this creature?
The creature is one thing. Animals and plants and all of that are all part of us. They're just lower levels of desire. Human is the desire that can actually connect to the upper level of reality. We're the connecting channel between the Creator and the rest of creation.
3 seconds. How can we express gratitude in our everyday life?
Say thank you.
Thank you, Marie
That
Clara
was easy.
Morris. All-time record here today on Kavyu Q&A 15.
Yes, 15.
You nailed it, Tony. Great
Ow.
job. Thank you.
She used to work on a farm.
That was amazing. That was amazing. Thank you for all those questions. That was incredible. And there's more. Get ready
I don't want to hear
Get
them.
ready for round 2. Okay, so let's go back to more live questions. And let's try Neva again. Hopefully we will hear you this time.
Hello. Do you hear me? Hello.
Hi, we hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, and thank you for this great opportunity. Regarding to equivalence of form law, if all people are taking the same step, that is 125, and our goal is to reach the first quality Adam Harishan, then at the end, all the people will become one. My question is, what will differentiate me, for example, from someone else? And how can I myself identify myself in the spiritual world? Thank you.
Okay, that was like a massive compound question. I just want to eliminate the last part of your question. How can I identify myself in the spiritual world? You don't identify self in the spiritual world. That's what makes it the spiritual world. It's not limited by self. There is no consideration of self. On the other hand, it doesn't mean that we lose, that the differences between people are not irrelevant. We don't, even though we kind of nullify to the general quality, we don't lose ourselves. We don't disappear. The whole point is that differences are no barrier. Differences are the opportunity for that force of love and spirituality to act. It can't act unless there appears within our reason this idea that, no, that's not possible, or I can't make that connection, or I hate that, or I just, I don't want anything to do with it, and so on, or that it's not possible to reach this goal because I can't make other people agree with me. It doesn't have anything to do with that level at all. You see? So the equivalence of form in spirituality does not have to do with the things that appear within reason and in matter. Those are expressions of what we are unlearning. They don't disappear, but we don't identify with them. What we identify with is the force above them. We learn to identify with the force that's above them, that gives them life, fills them up, and cares for them, no matter how good or bad they are, no matter how much they seem to us. And the reason they seem to us like they could prevent us from achieving something spiritually, or that it makes a difference, is that we're still identifying with ourselves as a shattered part of this whole. The 125 steps are, it's a matter of intensity. It's a matter of quality. How, I'm going to dye something blue. Well, how blue is it? We're just dyeing it and dyeing it until it becomes the ultimate saturated blue. but it's like 125 times you dip it into the dye until it fully is nothing but blue. So it's 125 steps of this quality of bestowal increasing in intensity until that's the only quality that really lives between us. So what I'm talking about here is we are flipping the perceptual perspective from outside of the individual to seeing that the individual is an expression of a single desire, not that somehow we're going to crack open this individual and find the world in there. No, we're already completely within the true inner world, the true deepest part. But it's done through relationship, not through reason, and not through matter.
Beautiful question. Next one comes from Jenny M. Live question.
Hi guys, bonjour Marie. Actually my question was I think related to the one Laurencio asked, but I'm still gonna ask it again. Coming from a Christian background, where prayer is practiced daily, and I'm just struggling with understanding the proper way to pray in Kabbalah, or is there like a specific formula that we have to follow or steps that we need to follow, or is the prayer for others more than it is for ourselves?
Let me just give you a little bit of practical advice. Don't try to pray Kabbalistically. If you're still connected with your church, do those prayers, because they will change for you. The more you learn and come in contact with the desire in you, the more you live in that desire that wants to connect with the Creator, and the more contact you have with other people and the more resistance that you feel about it, the dimension of what prayer is will become clearer and clearer to you. And you'll begin to understand what you're actually saying in those prayers in your church. Even if so you don't need to stop anything and replace it with something else. The concept of prayer in Kabbalah is so profound that, actually everything is prayer. But it's not a separate action. It's not what's in a book, even though there are prayer books that were constructed by Kabbalists. But the only thing that they describe are a succession of states and they're beyond the ken right now of a beginning student. You just can't do that. It's something that you become. It's an organic development that happens for people. If you just continue to study and you ask yourself this question, it will become clearer to you. But don't sort of freeze it in your head. This is prayer, this isn't prayer. Let it flow. If you're a prayerful person in the first place, it'll start to order everything around that desire. So let go of it. Just let it see what it does. Just see what it does. And you don't have to cut off anything else that you're doing.
Merci beaucoup, Jenny. Je suis très heureuse te voir. Thank you very much, Jenny. I'm very happy to see you. And she's holding me accountable to study French. So we study Kabbalah together, but I'm brushing up on my French. Really nice to see you today. Next question comes from Stephanie. Live question. Have Stephanie with us.
To remind you, because I have no idea what you're doing or what you're not doing, but as you can see that the Kabbalah is run by people who give their time, and we're happy to do that. I mean that because this allows us to actualize the things that we're talking about here, right? And you will eventually do that as well. But it does. But in order to teach you, and in order to, for the infrastructure and all of these things that have to be built and maintained and all that, it does cost us, like any school, it costs us to be able to supply this to you. So, and you probably have seen the banner. Alexi, can you put that banner up for the pay? That's right. But the way that we do it is like we're trying to make sure that we have the resources by doing something that's in the nature of what we're teaching, which is that we're not stopping anybody because of financial means or not from studying. If you find this valuable to you, anything that you can give, pay what you wish, will help. And it costs us $25 a student per semester, basically, to be able to do this. So if you can do that, and maybe you've already done it, but if you can do it, it will help us. If you can't do that, do less. If you can do more and you can help some other person, I mean, you won't know who it is, but that's actually good. And they won't know that you did it, which is actually good because that's the way the system works. All of that giving is hidden. Whatever you can do, if you find it valuable, help us do this and help us spread it. There is, I think there's a form in which, there's like an input on the site itself that allows you to do that on a once per semester basis or on an ongoing basis or however you want to do it. So please take a look at that because it helps everybody here.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Yes, I believe we have William via iPhone who wants to ask a live question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do, William. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My question is whether or not all the actions that come my way, all the things that happen, if they are in fact really coming from the Creator in the form of a bestowal. So whether they be good or bad. So my question is, for example, if my wife says something that I interpret as mean or nasty, or somebody cuts me off on the highway, is that really an act that's coming from the Creator in an act of bestowal? And I need to take it that way and learn to bestow back.
There's no action and no event that comes from anywhere else. The question is really, how attuned are we to the source of something, and then what use are we going to make of that? Are we just going to, get PO'd and just hope that it passes soon? That I don't like the way that I feel, and I'll calm down. I'll take my attention off it. Did I do anything with what the Creator gave me? No, I didn't. I squandered that opportunity because these events are always aimed precisely at something that needs to be reversed in its quality. It doesn't bother anything else except that particular thing. It's a gift. The Creator's saying, I know you can't locate your next change. I know you're just, you've got your attention on everything but the reason that you're here. Okay, let me help you. And he sends something, and it's precisely on that place in which we are receiving or limiting something in which we should be trying to be grateful and seeing that the only reason that it hurts is because I'm holding it in a self-focused way, that I'm not understanding that maybe if I change the way that I'm doing something, like in traffic, you say someone cuts you off. Why? Because you're in an integrated system in which a person's actions and reactions are either good or dangerous to the entire system, and no one can get out of that interlocked thing. We're not free when we travel. We're there in order to facilitate the safe travel and successful travel of everybody there. So if I understand that I got cut off, maybe my awareness, whatever, you can do the process on that, right? But you're even in a better position than most people, because as a student of Kabbalah, you already know there's none else besides him. So the question is, how quickly can I attribute the source? Once you attribute that source to the source, stuff already starts working in a correct direction. Don't worry about any sort of mental gymnastics about giving back to the Creator. Just attribute it, first of all, to the Creator, and then a completely different sort of mechanism takes over inside of your thinking. It develops. It takes time. Eventually, the whole thing turns over, and we sort of live in a kind of gratitude, a constant gratitude, you know? And it's like language. You're having a beautiful, intimate conversation with the Creator. But again, I don't want to make people think that this is like you're out on your own and you're having a private conversation with the Creator. The place where the grammar and the syntax and the real depth of meaning comes out in this exchange is not between the individual and the Creator, because that's mostly illusory. It happens in the further steps when you study in relation to other people that are studying. Then the full-blown language, you begin to understand and even be able to talk back.
I think that was a very beautiful question. Looking forward to hearing from Jacob Belmont next. Jacob also has a live question.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Hello? Hi,
We hear
can you
you.
guys? Hi, yeah, I was just wondering, what is the real definition of love in Kabbalah? Because the word love and love thy neighbor as thyself is something that we hear all the time. I'm sure all of us have heard it before. I'm just wondering, because after we hear that, like in church and all, the next thing that happens is a very unloving experience from everyone. So people always misuse the word love. I'm just wondering, according to Kabbalah, what is the definition of love and love thy neighbor as thyself?
Good, good. Very good. And I'm glad that you noticed that the next thing that happens is that you get smacked upside the head when you do it, when you love. You know why? Because the definition of love is a connection over hatred. Love is a force not deterred by blows and by hatred. It has no way to live or show itself without the resistance, without the disconnection. It's like a light that shines in a vacuum with no dust particles to catch the light. There is no love, therefore. It's only, love is a force stronger than all of the crap that we run into. It's stronger than our own negation of other people. It exists over top of it. It's there's also another Kabbalistic phrase, love covers all transgressions. Transgressions against who? It's not like we're judging like, you committed a crime, but I'm going to forgive you. No. We say that others transgress us, right? This guy did that, you know. No, they didn't. It's just like, it's a follow-up on the question just before this. So love your friend as yourself means two things. It means to identify with the good, a good outcome, spiritual outcome for others. And it also means the same way that you forgive yourself for all of the worst, darkest things, or you entertain yourself by saying, oh, I'm bad, or however we do these things with ourselves, we do this for other people. We accord them the exact same goodness and care that we accord ourselves. Actually more than that. Because it's possible to love them, but it's not possible truly to love ourselves. We are an agent of love. We are not an object of love. For other people, yes. But for us, no. There's nothing to shine on within us. If we become that light, that emanating force, just like the light that shines on the dust, then what are we but light, you know? No. What's our purpose? Our purpose is to shine that on all of the things that we resist, that we hate, that are hitting us, as you know, that are blows, that are bad actions by other people. Love functions only at those times.
Okay, we're going to go to a question from Talia. Thank you, Talia. I understand that you're new, and I'm sure there's other new friends with us today. Talia asks, I am new to this wonderful wisdom. What books do you recommend for someone just getting started?
Well, the recommendations, we've thought this out, for each course, And the books that are in the special collections for students are the ones most suitable for the step that you're on in the study. They provide answers to the study that you're actually having right now, and also provide targets for you for further work. And we have there are a few different book packages, and you'll find everything that you need in these book packages. Yeah, that part 1 is for Kabbalah Revealed 1, but it's also the Kabbalah for the student is something you'll use your entire Kabbalistic career, let's call it. And in part 2, there's a fabulous book, Shamati, I Heard, which is a book of recordings of that Rabash, who is the teacher of Rav Lightman, who is our teacher, that he received from his father Bala Salam. It's an incredible book that is all about the inner work of a person, the changes that happen. It's the work of the heart, constantly inspiring. And there's a special deal, 20% discount on these packages and books for Kabbalah, KabU students. So I would start with those.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tony. We're going to go back to live questions. We still have a few more. Hopefully we can fit those in. We have a question coming from Jacob Belmont.
I already asked the question, guys. Can move on to the next person.
Thank you. We'll move on. Do you have another one? I'm just kidding.
Well, I could give you the same answer. How would that be?
You're in a different state now. You'll hear completely different. Okay, we'll go to Rachel. Rachel also has a live question, please.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So my question is, how do we speak the same language to other people so that they do not perceive it's something else? Like, for example, like if I say something to my mom, I want her to receive it as it is, because like we have limited and egoic perception, and all the screens made her not realizing is that it is, but as something else. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense, but I just want to clarify. It does make sense. I just want to clarify one thing. Are you talking specifically about Kabbalah, or are you talking only about being understood, that our thoughts and our expressions are understood or misunderstood by other people?
Like kind of speak the same language, but the thing is, like, people that I care about, they don't learn Kabbalah. So how do I start to kind of speak the same language even though they don't study Kabbalah?
Yes. Okay. I understand what you're saying. There's a big problem with trying to, when we find Kabbalah, and it's, the reason you're open to it is because there's a certain quality in you, and there's a certain desire in you, and it's a special desire. And it's a desire that awakens first in a certain group of people, and it spreads from that generally out into the world. The awakened desire doesn't exist on the broadest levels in humanity. They are going to receive exactly the same thing, but they're going to receive it in a different way. You're a person who has to study. You're a person who is probably going to some degree or another, will make this an ongoing living part of your life. It'll be, you're dealing with it consciously and in your heart in a conscious way. Now, most people don't have that sort of spiritual gene in that way. So it becomes very difficult to speak to people about it. Also, you're at the absolute beginning of it and you don't know how to speak to people about it. And finally, it's usually a bad idea to try to explain these things to friends and family and places that can be disturbed by the lack of understanding. I wouldn't expect them to understand. The best way for people to get a sense of what its value is to you is the example that you give in the way that you deal with them. If you want to share something with someone about what's going on, and maybe your mother or somebody may be pressing you to explain something, what in the world are you doing? And you try to say what it is, but it's very difficult. Give them a book. Find something that is simple enough that you got something from, and just share that. But if you share a lot of that stuff at work, it'll cause problems for you. It could cause problems in your family. I don't know how old you are, whether you are of age of majority or not. But so your mom or your father have something to say about what you're studying, and rightfully so. If they've got a concern, they've got a right to have that concern. But if you're age of majority, then it's not really anybody's business, and don't create a conflict situation for yourself. Strengthen yourself, see how it works for you, and try to share materials. Okay?
Okay, thank you. One more live question. Maybe we'll have time for 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 more listed here. Alina, we'd love to hear your question next.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I see a different person on the screen. I'm sorry.
Tricky.
Hi. So I have a question regarding food, and namely, I have been raised Jewish and going to the synagogue, which means I learned how to eat kosher food and how important it is to say blessings before we eat. How important it is as a Kabbalah student actually to follow these traditions? That was a question.
Okay, let me give you some framework about this. What we are doing in B'nai Baruch and in Kabyu is we are bringing the basic wisdom, the method of connection, the wisdom of connection, to as many people in the world as possible. And the Kabbalists always taught people who were not Jewish, because Jewish was something that was built on top of Kabbalah. It's an interpretation, a kind of a reduction of Kabbalah without, for the most part, without intention. It has a lot to do with faith within or below reason. I'm not going to get into those distinctions right now, but it's a different kind of faith. And yet everything in Judaism, many things in Christianity, a lot of stuff in Islam are all based in this, which means that the traditions and the religious laws, they come from a materialization of the language of branches. What the language is actually talking about is intention. That's what it's talking about. Those are what actions are, okay? So none of those things are wrong. But they are not they should not create an inability for Kabbalists to spread this to everybody, because it belongs to everybody. It doesn't have anything to do really, in a sense, with being, you don't have to be Jewish, you see. And Judaism and all that was built on top of it as a memory device for a period of time in which the whole world could not be corrected. Now it can. Okay, so that's just the framework. If you're already involved, it's exactly the same thing as what I said to a Christian student. If you're involved in a community, those and you're doing kashrut and all of that stuff, to continue. You will eventually discover what the real root of that is. You know, like a blessing is to remember the source of something. It's to remember, it's enod mivado, that we are constantly in reception, and the blessing is intended to make a person receive in order to bestow. It's like to put a person into a state like that, not do 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 yum yum yum. It's not. It isn't that. It's like a serious change in why I'm receiving something and what the goal is. You see, and so is kashrut and all of those things. You know what milk and meat is? Milk is bestowal, meat is reception. And that's why you don't mix those two. You know, they're different states, they're different levels of stuff. So this is how Kabbalah looks at it. That applies to everything, because these are actually laws of nature, not laws of a religion. A religion is a kind of a reduction of this sort of thing. If you're in it and you're in a community, do. There's no reason to stop. It's good. It's based on real things. But there's no reason for anybody to start doing those things either. What's important is the intention. If you have both, that may be a bonus to you, you know? And I don't know. I mean, I think that I have a lot of Christian friends, you know, who are Kabbalists, and they get a kick out of finally understanding what they call the Old Testament, what it actually is, and being able to open it up. It's kind of like a thrill for people, and then they understand their own tradition in a much deeper way. But these are not barriers to anything, so enjoy.
Thank you, Alina. Next live question comes from Mary.
What?
Trick question. No, it's from Mary, one of our viewers.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Mary. Where did you go? Hi, I'm talking to the group. I'm Mary White, and my question is, if my vessel dictates what I'm receiving from the Creator, and I don't have control over what my desires or intentions are that are in my vessel. My question is, how can I get a new vessel? Can I upgrade my vessel? Is it like a car, and I can upgrade and get a better one with better intentions and better desires, so I can receive better things in order to bestow better things? And also, there seems to be a belief that if you attain a soul or a vessel, that other people can take that from you, and that there's like a battle, like, for that not to happen, that you have to I don't know. It's to me, this is a really hard question, and it's something that affects me every day, and I would really like to understand this better. It may not make sense to you.
It makes sense to me. I've been there. I think most people who go through this path, know what you mean by that. Let's start with the first thing that you asked. You actually cannot upgrade your vessel. Sorry, you've got an old model, and your warranty is worn off. But what you can do is you can upgrade your operating system. You can change the target, how you're using it, and what it means and what it can do comes from striving to have a correct intention. That doesn't mean that you have the ability to have that direct intention, but that's not the way that things grow anyway. We think that it comes directly out of our efforts. It doesn't come directly. It comes as a result of efforts, but you can't see the cause and effect here. So if you start aiming, even now with your out of warranty vessel, and you strive at finding out what the download link is for the new operating system to run your computer, that, and you're looking for it every day and you can't find it and you're looking for it, that's already starting to change everything about your vessel. Your vessel is the desire that you have. The intention sort of built the nature of that in you now. It feels different. It wants to be filled with something else. So intention actually changes everything. And the place where it becomes very, very powerful is when you get to the next semester or the semester after that, and you start seeing that whole mechanism operating in relation to other people. You'll see that it does change. It really does change. It comes from the outside in, actually. But the thing that's from the inside out is the target that you have, what you want, like you're asking for it. You're asking for it from the Creator, from the whole system. The second thing is the idea that that your spiritual work or something can be taken away from you by others and all that stuff. That's not true. That's an argument of the ego that says spirituality is just like physicality. It says that the Creator and spirituality is like me or the forces of nature or like my own egoistic heart. They're not like that at all. They're opposite. All they want is your good. Every situation that occurs is only to strengthen you in getting a foothold and then living in a spiritual, correct relationship with other people. It's never there to make you lose it. It's only there to give you sustaining power and to advance you to another level. And if you just practice that, seeing what the source of it is. If it came from the Creator, there is no authority higher than that. And I'm glad I don't have any authority because I'd screw things up. So if everything is coming from Him except the direction of my desire, good enough for me, because that's something that can be trusted. That's something that is good, that does good to the good and the bad. How can you go wrong? Take the pressure off yourself. Give yourself a break. The system is running things for your benefit. It's complex. It takes time. There's details to things. It doesn't happen overnight, but neither does your life, thank God. So that's why it's as long as it is, as detailed, as involved, as interesting, and as great a story. But it's all evolving towards good.
Okay, I know we're running a little overtime, friends, but I'm really happy, Mary, that we were able to get your question in. Hope you feel more settled and a little more satisfied. I'm going to go to announcements. Next semester starts March 10th. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook and you want to sign up for the course, you can do that. You can find the links in the chat. Also, as Tony mentioned earlier, Pay What You Wish tuition. Thanks to all the students, really sincerely, that participated in the Pay What You Wish tuition campaign. And if you'd like to participate, you can do that as well. And again, you can find those links in the chat. Books, if you are in Kabbalah Revealed 1 or 2, you can get your course book packages with a 20% discount. Again, those links are available in the chat, and we had so many incredible questions there. They just keep flowing in even as we're wrapping up. If you're in Kabbalah Revealed 1 or 2, please take those to the forum. If not, please save your questions, and we would really love to see you back here next time for KabU Live Q&A.
Yeah, great questions, friends. Thank you so much. That was really wonderful. It's really great to be with you, and maybe we'll see you again.
There's everybody.
The song we long to sing is far beyond, and all in all, its parts are scattered. They hide beyond all birth and bond, and only you and I can find them. All our dreams of words, all our dreams of music, they're only silence, they're only silence, falling into silence. You carry your dream, you carry your song in our hearts, however it seems. Wild world art, whatever it means. You carry your song in our hearts, you carry your dream. So he's placed his crazy dreams in our towers of bone. Filled us up with longing. All our dreams of words, all our dreams of music. They're only silence, they're only silence, falling into silence. We'll carry your dream, carry your dream. We'll carry your song in our hearts, however it seems. While we're apart, whatever it means. You'll carry your song in our hearts, carry your dream, carry your dream. While we're apart,